for this meeting. Is anyone ready to make a motion there?
I'll make that motion.
Happily, yeah.
Thank
I'll
you.
second it.
Thanks. Now heading back to the agenda. Not as smooth as I'd like to be. We don't have minutes to be adopted and don't have any members of the public here as far as I know. So we're straight into the two matters we've come back together to focus on today. And the first is to review our preliminary allocations of grant applications and get ready to make recommendations on those allocations. I'm going to click on that.
Want me to share the screen now?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So you can see an Excel spreadsheet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look at us. Okay.
That's the one. That's the one.
Steph, could you zoom in ever so slightly?
Sure.
For the elderly among us,
Oh, it's
like me.
Ow.
No, me. Are you kidding me? I'm sitting and going like this to my screen. Okay.
I'm looking at my glasses.
I just did a little bit, so we don't want me to do a bit more. Here, I'll do one thing.
What would be really helpful, Steph, is if you could, I don't know if it's easy, can you make those recommendation numbers, oh, there we go. I was going to say black, but now I can see them. Okay. So why don't we start by just identifying those areas, as Michelle just mentioned, where there was a bit of will we, won't we attached. So Caring Circle, we had agreed on 15, subject to adjustments. The Children's Center, the Family Place, 10, subject to adjustments. Thrive Bowen was 5. The Community Festival Association is the amount for BowFest, and that was, if I'm right, is that one of the ones we thought might be adjusted or not?
Andrea, I think you're reading out the requested amounts, not the suggested
Good
amounts.
Lord.
Oh, so
I'm
do you want me?
Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you want me to, it's the blue one, the blue and white.
That's what I'm reading. Yep, that's what I'm
Okay.
reading.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Sorry.
So for the Community Festival Association, the draft recommendation was for 2. I just was wondering whether that was one that we weren't 100% sure about. I know with Light Up Bowen, there was a question of somewhere between no grant and 2,000 was a possibility. And then the BIRCH allocation, we've put here 10 with the proviso that we were also going to make that recommendation to council. So if I'm right, I think it was the BowFest and Light Up Bowen items in particular that we needed to be resolved. Is that fair, everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any thoughts? I have to be honest and say I don't have strong feelings about those two. I wasn't particularly in favor of either I hadn't prioritized either application. I'm very open to anything anyone suggests.
So I wonder, that being the case, this is just kind of tossing it out there. The question really is, do we feel like we want to give those smaller amounts to these sort of cultural things, the BowFest and the Light Up Bowen, or zero those out and give more to somebody else, like more to BIRCH or not? I myself was more of the zero BIRCH out, as much as I think that they're an important organization doing important work, just because of this sort of decision we're moving toward about trying to move away from funding operational costs. But of course, we haven't done that with anybody else. So I guess I'm actually sort of happy with this. I think it's good to give a little bit of money to BowFest and a little bit of money to Light Up Bowen and some symbolic money to BIRCH, and then try to get council to shift in the future away from those operational costs.
Yes, if I may, there are ways through our sort of strategic initiatives we can help BIRCH, whereas Light Up Bowen, it's kind of more of a grassroots thing. It's not so, it's just of a different scale. So just for your consideration, there are other ways of supporting Bowen Island, Birch. And frankly, you know, it is a sizable project. It's applying for lots of grants. And I would be quite happy to reduce it, give some to Light Up Bowen and end up with our 41,400 number. Because really, when I look at our mission here, I'm glad that we're giving it something if it's symbolic, but really, I think there are other ways of dealing with it.
Thank you for saying that, Michael. I have to say, when I look at this, it feels like most of our funding, if not, yeah, the majority of our funding is going to sort of more larger institutional places instead of the really, I mean, I know they're all community based and really important organizations doing really good work, but it's all sort of operational, and I'd love to see some money see some money going to Light Up. I think their ask needs some coaching, but and some maybe even more going to community, to BOFest. And I could see a reduction in sending a message to some of the other organizations, including BIRCH. Like maybe we could just impact BIRCH, but you know, maybe Caring Circle and Family Place.
Can I make a suggestion, just so people seem interested in supporting BOFest and Light Up Bowen at least a little bit, right? What if we made those two amounts, if we made those, I'm just trying to get Light Up Bowen on the board, so to speak, and then we can play with numbers. So what if BOFest and Light Up Bowen each had 700? That gets us to our budget, and then we can make adjustments from there.
So Light Up Bowen's going from blank to 700, and BOFest is going from 2 to 700.
Yeah, just for a minute, and
Okay.
I think that gets us to our budget.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're
and
doing
then
arithmetic.
and then adjustments could be made from there. I guess one question I have is, I understand the concerns about large grants, and that's going to be our next item, is to make that recommendation to council. But I was wondering about, you know, BIRCH being awarded 10 instead of 20, whereas at Family Place and Caring Circle getting the full amount they've asked for. And yeah.
So on that note, one of the things I pointed out in our initial discussion last week was that it looked to me as if the Children's Center Family Place had a couple of items in their budget in which there was some significant program growth. Like there was a Mother Goose something, singing something, in which there was an expansion in programming this year in the budget. And so I was suggesting that we fund that one a little bit lower, with kind of the message that maybe this isn't the year to be expanding on programs as important as those programs might be. And so maybe that's something worth considering. That could be $1,000 less.
How much less?
Maybe 1,000.
And I almost see that on the opposite side. I almost see that this funding is to fund expansion and fund innovation at that level, and not to fund wages, quite frankly.
I agree. Which is what Caring Circle and BIRCH is really about, right?
Yeah, obviously with this year, Caring Circle has been particularly taxed with just dealing with stuff, you know, given everything that is going on right now. So just to see where they are particularly strapped in more ways than one, and we're just coping with the day-to-day stuff at the minute. I think it's more, I think it should come out of here for the future as part of our recommendations. It's pretty essential. If, for example, if it was to go, it would be hugely missed, measure of its importance. I would certainly see you taking a couple of thousand from the Children's Society are worthy. I frankly would take it from BIRCH, because I just feel there are so many other ways. The housing issue is so massive, not just on Bowen, but everywhere. And our group with 41,400 to spend is kind of BIRCH is, I don't know, I look at it and I'm thinking, as I am with a couple of the others, really, this is symbolic or by way of support, but we could perhaps just lighten that a little bit and maybe light up Bowen and the community festival, because their community events could be the benefactors.
I guess I will say I was underwhelmed by the BowFest application, in the sense that it wasn't clear that how the money was going to be spent, if in fact we are able to meet in person for BowFest, or people are able to attend an outdoor concert, and it's looking like that is possible. And there are going to be ticket sales, or there aren't going to be ticket sales. And I don't mean to be tough, but it's not 100% clear to me where that money is going to go exactly in every event. Light Up Bowen, I know it was a huge ask, and as we've agreed, there needs to be hopefully maybe some coaching and guidance about how to take a more strategic approach. We know that money is going to go for, lights and equipment, basically, if we give money there. But of those two, I would still be more interested in supporting Light Up Bowen, I think.
Bobby? Looks like you're a bit of a tiebreaker here.
Oh God. Well, I have to say, gosh, really agree with a lot of points made here. With Family Place, BCC's budget looked really healthy. And as Michelle pointed out, there was some additions to their expenses that were doubled for the coming year compared to the current year. So I don't know. I didn't see as much financial need there, but it's such an important organization and they do such fantastic work that I definitely want to support them. But if I was looking at strictly a show of financial need, I don't know that it was there as much. And I also hear what Michael is saying, that there are other avenues to support such a large and important issue that BIRCH is addressing with housing. So it'd be nice to be able to take some of these funds to put them into smaller organizations. So I would like to maybe pull maybe $1,000 maybe from BIRCH into Light Up Bowen, and maybe 1,000 from BCC into BowFest. I don't know. This is a tough one. It's all.
I just asked Michelle, do you have the Family Place one to hand? Was it about 1,000 increase in that expense?
I'm going to have to look that up. I'm happy to look it up.
I can too. Yeah, I just wondered, because it would, that 1,000 would be easy to pull based on what you guys have said.
I remember it being 2,500 in the Mother Goose, and then another 2,500 in operating expenses. Like, it turned out to be about 5,000, I think, because that's why I had originally awarded them 5,000, because if we were to take out that increase in their budget for the year.
What if there was a $2,500 reduction, just being crazy here, and then that was then shared by the other two smaller ones?
Sorry, reduction from the Family Place?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, and that's going to be what then?
1,250, so 1,950.
Thank you.
How's that sitting with everybody?
I feel comfortable with that. That looks good.
Mm-hmm.
I could vote on.
The numbers aren't as round as I would like, but I'm getting over the OCD-ness of that.
I think I'm happy with that.
Okay, Michelle, happy, sorry, Penny,
Yeah, I can live with it.
Bobby, happy?
Can we do better than that, Penny? Can we do
Yeah,
better than
I
living
think-
with it?
I think I would take less away from, personally, I would take less away from Family Place and more away from, and somewhat more away from Birch. But I can live with this.
Well, we can do that, right? That's why we're here. We could, we can put an 500 back, make it 85. What would feel right based on the increased funding? What about, yeah. And
There you go.
Yeah, better. Thank you.
I was just thinking it might also be possible to, yeah, just, anyway, I don't want to stir the pot anymore.
Sure.
Penny, would you feel comfortable maybe balancing out BCC and Birch a bit more?
So 80, like 89, or like 9,000 each or 8,500 each? Let's take it. What about 87.5? I'm just
Or
trying to,
you could be 85 each, but a little bit more on BOFest.
yeah, that's, I just thought we could give the difference to BOFest. Okay.
Oh, 85 each, okay, 8500. And then BOFest.
Well, I can honestly say I'd be more comfortable if BOFest and Light Up Bone got the same somehow. It would
Yeah.
feel righter.
Yeah.
So whatever that difference is, Steph, love it.
Magic.
So much more symmetry this way.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. So that's, yeah, that's lovely. So that's reflecting the increasing costs of Family Place during a tight year for this granting body. It reflects a commitment to these two smaller community projects. And it reflects the fact that Birch is doing terrific work, but has many other opportunities to secure the funding that they need. So that looks like a go. Last comments. Okay.
So do you want me to read out the recommendation?
Yes,
Andrea?
please, Steph. Yes, please.
Okay, that the Community Grants Advisory Committee recommend to council that the amount specified be allocated to the following. Caring Circle, 15,000. Bowen Island United Church, 0. Bowen Island Community Festival Association, 2,200. Children's Center, 8,500. Bahora, 0. Light Up Bowen, 2,200. Thrive Bowen, 5,000. Birch, 8,500. Sorry, 8,500. Tourism Bowen Island, 0. Mover,
Great. I'll move it.
I'll second.
all in
Great.
favor?
Aye.
Terrific work, everybody. That's a
What
a
is the
feel-good-
process? What's the process next in going back? Because we had some feedback for some of those applications. And I'm wondering.
So the process normally is that we, the minutes of the municipality are meant to be high level decision points and action items. But as you know, I'm typing all the time. So I send my verbatim notes or cleaned up detailed notes to the finance officer for her to include the salient points of your discussion in letters to the applicants. And the letters to the applicants will say that I mean, this is all public anyways, but it's just a bit of a more fleshed out, like these are the areas you need to work on. These are the weak points. Unfortunately, we're without a finance officer. Well, we have a brand new finance officer. I'm concerned she would be able to fit this into her workflow. So I'm gonna have to.
Steph, I'm happy to be available to review drafts or to help with the draft letters, because I think if that's helpful. Yeah.
Wow, you've got a lot on your plate. That's a very kind offer.
I'm in the new house now. Are you kidding? I'm a woman of leisure, sort of.
Okay.
But I'm thinking, just looking back on the list, the people in particular that we wanted to give some constructive feedback to, it was Light Up Bowen for sure. And also the United Church, just again, helping to make that distinction between the congregation's needs and the wider community need. And was that it?
There are lots of notes. Why don't you and I work on this together offline?
Yeah, of course.
And
but
then
those were
maybe we can send
those were
draft.
the two.
Okay. And the draft letters, do you think that's worth sharing with the committee for review, or would committee members like to see the letters before they're sent out?
I'm happy to see them, but I totally 100% trust the two of you to capture what needs to go out. So,
okay, Andrew, if you can just maybe give me a day or two to.
Oh, honey, for the love!
Stop drinking out of a fire hydrant. You know?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm here. Okay,
thank you so much. Great. Okay, that part's done. Good job, everybody. And then the next difficult one.
Sorry, I'm just going back to the agenda. Right. So our discussion about long-term funding for the Caring Circle Family Place in BIRCH, and you all may have it in front of you again, but the recommendation, there's a draft recommendation here that the Community Grants Advisory Committee recommend that council direct staff to provide funding. I think it should read for the Caring Circle Family Place in BIRCH on a permanent ongoing basis with funds elsewhere in the municipal budget. On its face, I think that subject to that one typo, that recommendation looks great to me. Tell me why I'm wrong.
No, I think it's fine, and frankly, it sponsors a discussion that needs to take place. In fact, BIRCH might be treated slightly differently to the other two. Who knows? But that's a discussion we can have following this group's recommendation, and that's really helpful.
Is there anything else this committee could provide, Michael, to support? Or could we speak to it? Or
one thing, this is known as the our grants committee, and I'm wondering whether we're almost a small grants committee, or whether we would make the recommendation that the grants awarded through this committee have a cap of whatever you deem to be appropriate, so that we don't get applications for 27,000 and for this and that, because if how do you feel about saying this committee will review applications to a limit of, because there's not going to be, because big amounts simply crush the rest in terms of what's available, and I'm not sure those big amounts are suitable for this committee. I think they should be smaller amounts, and I just want to know how people feel about that, because then I think it would help direct the people making the applications. So someone needing 27,000 is not going to make an application to this group. Well, I think that would save a lot of time.
Well, it's funny. I just love to not counter that, but a lot of what we've been talking about is ongoing funding, and that being the bigger issue, as opposed to, as we used to say at the Community Foundation, funding a really great idea. And I guess I'm anticipating that there could be an application on a given year for $20,000 for a really great one-off idea. And I would hate to think that wasn't possible from this fund. For me, it's more the ongoing regular operational stuff that's tricky. I don't know.
I agree with that 1,000%. And I think that the way to manage it is not by giving ourselves a cap and then having the Family Place and Caring Circle and BIRCH applying for $8,000 grants each, because that fits within the cap, but rather not having a cap and having really clear guidance that goes both to council and in all of the grants materials and the website and everything else, saying priority will be given to programs not requesting operating funding. But
Yeah.
if we say that, we have to act on it, or we have to do it. So that means that the next time we get the Caring Circle and the Family Place and the BIRCH back, we could say, no, these are not prioritized funding categories.
I guess how we proceed will be driven a little bit by council's reaction to this recommendation, right? I mean, if council says no, then it's hard to turn the tap off for Caring Circle. It's just, it is.
I think it opens up a discussion, frankly, around the work we're doing. And I think that is good. Having to have, it's so obvious after all these years of whom we're funding on a almost routine basis. And I'm hoping we can take this. I mean, they have to sort of stand there every year going through this exercise. And I'm not sure for some of them that's appropriate. If they're that valuable, then I think we need to look after them better so they can make long-term plans. If I was organizing one of these and I had to depend for a significant amount every year, my long-term planning would be quite impeded. I think at a point, I need to know where I stand as far as finances are concerned. And I'd like to see us do all we can to help those people.
Well, this is, I feel like we talked about this last year, and maybe this is another area I've fallen down on, but one of the ongoing challenges I've faced both at the Community Foundation and here is that we haven't talked about is being able to support applicants. And so, you know, I would love there to be a way to be able to, so we've talked about Light Up Bowen, for example, helping applicants craft, I'm not saying that we're necessarily going to do the drafting for them, but I can see that there are times when they need support, when they need, it's hard not to be able to engage with applicants. That's, I guess, what I'm saying. So to ask the questions of BOFEST about what happens if we are together, what happens if we aren't, how's the money going to be used? Did you think about online ticketing or not? Same with Basha and Light Up Bowen. And so I feel like some, or even to be able to parse the community and congregation needs in the United Church application. So I guess that for me is always the hard part at the end of each of these processes, is not being able to engage in that discussion. And maybe it's just we can't because of the nature of what we do. But
so did you at Community Foundation?
We built in a kind of a preliminary interview. So anybody who was interested could come and kind of talk through their draft application with us. And we would give some preliminary comments along the lines of, have you thought about, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, I think that, yeah. And it seems to me when I first started with this committee, which feels like 100 years ago, when we were meeting live and applicants were in the audience, and we weren't really meant to be chatting, but we kind of did a bit in those days. We were able to talk to Tierna Nog and others. Colleen would be sitting there talking about Caring Circle. So I hope I'm not taking this too far off track, but that's the part that I think where we could add more. I'd love us to be able to add more value, to use the cliche.
So do you
Also,
think
you might remember that last year we were on the verge of having sort of an applicant workshop that was going to focus on budgeting, and then everything broke loose and we never did that. But maybe that's a point to think about for next year, rather than having our first meeting be to review applications, that we convene a group or a subset of the group in March to put together some sort of an applicant workshop for anyone who wants to participate in that, and have it be an opportunity for some skill development on that.
Yeah, and yeah, Michelle, I think you're right. That's what we had planned, and I think that can be great. And but I also know that we can be the most helpful when they've done some thinking already when they have a draft in hand. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Because otherwise they're just kind of taking in information, and I don't know. In a way, I would love, yeah, we should come back and think about this. And because I tend to scatter to the winds, we all are super busy. Maybe it would be helpful to just agree on when we might revisit this and put that together, maybe just after Christmas or something. Michelle, would you be keen to work on that with me?
Yeah,
or?
Sure.
Okay. Okay.
Is there any kind of touch base you'd like to do after council responds to these recommendations, or wait till December? Like if council were to say no, would you want to get together and talk about that, or?
I think we have to, don't we? Because, yeah, if council says no, then we've, sorry, and I'm riffing here. I'm imagining,
Oh.
what do we say to applicants next year? You know, that we'll have to talk about that.
Maybe we'll see. Touch base by email. I'll email you the results of the council discussion. And
well,
then,
if you guys are willing to come back together, I think it would be good to do it now, because what happens is 8 months go by and we can't remember, or Lord knows I can't remember, right? So it would be nice to sort of complete the circle after council's met. And I'm wondering out loud, regardless of what council says about our sort of core funding recommendation, we should probably meet, because it's going to affect what we say to applicants next year. Whether they say yes or no, it's going to shift things. Yeah. So even if we could have half an hour together, it would be lovely.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'd like an opportunity as well to relay all the aspects of the council meeting too, and sort of try and translate all the comments I've heard actually at the meeting. So, you know, that's going to be my job as sort of faithfully as possible, because I think we've been set actually a very difficult task, and we probably do need to explain to them how difficult it is when you just look at the amount of money is available and the amount of money is asked. So this is anything we can do to help assist this process, so we don't face the same dilemma every year. And we'll see how council feels about some of the associations that we've mentioned. So that's why I appreciate the recommendation, because this time it won't fall down between the cracks, because we'll all be there following it up, including myself.
Well, if I can suggest, let me just be bold and ask for 45 minutes just to be safe. If we could have that to talk about what council's recommendations and their impact, and then also talk about what kind of create a little project plan for the support we want to offer applicants early in 2022. And it'd be great to have that discussion while it's all fresh. Okay.
Yeah,
Steph, will you
absolutely.
organize that for us? Because you got nothing else to do?
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
I'll wait and see which agenda it goes on, and sometimes it gets
Thank you.
shifted. Hopefully next agenda, the deadline's today, tomorrow, but
And I'm so sorry to hear that Aoife's not with us. Gee, yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
We all are.
Yeah. Okay.
I missed that part of the conversation. Aoife's left the municipality?
Yeah. She was faced with, I mean, she has a family, and then she's faced with this reverse commute. If you know what, there's a good description, and I think it, but she is staying on to help us through tax seasons and whatever. And I spoke to her. I mean, bless her, she's as upset to leave as we are to lose her. Because she enjoyed being with us and being as part of the municipality. So there you go. No, I'm very sorry that we lost her. She was a super person to work with.
I can imagine she was great on the committee.
Right. Well, on that sad
we
note,
need to vote. We haven't voted.
Oh, what are we voting on? I love a vote.
The committee recommend that council direct staff to provide funding for the Caring Circle, Family Place, and BIRCH on a permanent, ongoing basis with funds elsewhere in the municipal budget.
I so move.
I second.
I'll second that. Oh yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
All in favor?
Yeah, thank you for both of you proposing and seconding that. I would actually rather that come from you. So appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for your time today.
Thank you.
Bye.
So much.